morning, good afternoon, guys. We're back for another Geek Tavern. As always, it's me, Shawn, and I'm joined by Mike.
Hello.
And Aaron.
Konnichiwa.
Well, we all saw, we'll talk about what we watched in the meantime, I guess. We all watched a Godzilla film recommended by Aaron. I watched a documentary about child stars growing up in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. I'm sorry. I was like, wait, man. I'm like, you didn't watch that with us.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't watch that.
I get that, yeah.
Which, actually, let's bring up our secondary podcast right at the moment. Since we're talking about that.
Sure.
Mike and I started, which Shawn will be brought into it after we go through the franchise of Godzilla movies. But we have a side cast called Subplot, in which we go back and revisit some of our favorite franchises and do an in-depth discussion on those. And right now we're on the Godzilla franchise. So go over and have a listen to that. We just did Godzilla in 1954 and Godzilla Raids Again. So we're going to be doing the Godzilla franchise in not two-part installments, but we're going to be doing them in 2 movie installments. So we'll be doing 2 movies at a time. Which will, because if we did 1 movie at a time, we'd be clear into next year.
Yeah.
This time next year, trying to get through all of them.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't really have anything else that I've watched.
The Boys.
Oh, yeah.
You and I have been watching The Boys.
I don't know if you guys have anything.
I rewatched a couple old Godzilla movies, but nothing.
Yeah,
I super.
Just been busy.
Worth mentioning.
Oh no, I almost forgot. Yeah, the other day before we went and watched our recommendation today, I rewatched and my brother watched for the first time, X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
And then we watched Dark Phoenix. Is that what it's called? Yeah. And one of those two are better than what I remember. Apocalypse, like I really actually enjoy that movie.
I just watched Apocalypse for the first time recently on Disney Plus, and like I wasn't completely paying attention because it was kind of on in the background, but I was like watching it, and the parts that I like really paid attention to, I was like, wow, I was like, this is real. Like Magneto's whole, like his family getting killed.
That might be my favorite X-Men moment ever.
Because like he runs over and like is cradling them, and then you just see the necklace just go through all the guys' necks, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But how many times does Eric have to lose everything he has to motivate him to be the bad guy in the movies? It happens literally every single time.
Like it's shitty. Like like I legitimately feel bad for Eric.
Yeah.
Because of everything that he's been through. Like I understand why he becomes the bad guy each time, because I'm like, man, this dude has like tried to do everything to make himself happy, and each and every time it just ends up getting destroyed. And he's like, you know what?
Yeah, and he even says, I think it's after he kills everybody with the necklace, he yells to the sky. Now, whether he's yelling at God or whatever higher power he believes in enough to yell at, but he's like, you know, what do you want me to do? or I forget the actual dialogue, but but he yells at the higher power
like this happens every time.
Like, come on, like
every 10 years it seems.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So, so Apocalypse, I mean it's not towards the top of good X-Men movies per se, but it's not a bad installment.
No, and I feel like it just kind of got shit on when it came out.
It did.
Because everyone's like, oh, no. But like, I'm like, Days of Future Past was highly regarded. First Class was highly. Why are you just dismissing this? Like, oh, they never make a good X-Men movie.
Yeah,
no, they did. The trilogy has 2 good first installments,
and this has some fallout from Days of Future Past. Nothing major, but like, you know, it's
but like watching it, I'm like, yeah, this is cohesive. It still works. I'm like, yeah,
and I don't even mind Apocalypse that much. You know, like he's not great. But
I brought this up to a friend of mine. I said, I like Oscar Isaac. Do not get me wrong. I love Oscar Isaac. He could still play Apocalypse, but I was like, why didn't they do what they did with Thanos?
Mm-hmm.
You still have the actor playing that character, but beef him up. Make him 8 feet tall like he really is.
Yeah.
Make him big and intimidating how he's portrayed in the comics.
I mean, he does
Don't
grow.
make him just a dude. Well, yeah, in the dream sequence. but even then, they just like scale him.
Yeah.
He's not gigantic like Thanos is and all that. It's like because Apocalypse is he's like Hulk size.
Yeah.
Like that's what I wanted to see.
Right.
He could have played him. I wouldn't have had any problem with him playing that character. But Josh Brolin's not a big guy, but they made CGI model beefed him up so he looks enormous. Like that's what I wanted to see. And a buddy of mine that I was talking to, he's like, they should have done that. He's like, in hindsight, they should have. Yeah. He's like, it's not that it didn't work. Mm-hmm. It's just it would have heightened it more. Would have made it better if they had done it that way.
Yeah. So I think that's all I watched.
Well, we all did get to watch something in theaters again, by the way. For the first time in a while, we got to see the next installment from director Christopher Nolan, Tenet.
If we had seen New Mutants, that would have been an excellent transition.
It would have been.
But since we didn't.
Yeah. We'll
get around to that.
Eventually, yeah. But we saw Tenet. I really liked it.
I did too.
We're going to spoil the movie if you haven't seen it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since it's released. So
honestly, it's been out for like a month now. If you haven't seen it, like what they have like 3 seats available. Just go.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you'll be able to get in. But yeah, I really liked it. I wish I could have seen it a second time, but you know how things are.
Well, you kind of caught a little bit.
Yeah, I got to see the part that I really wanted to see.
Yeah, when we went to visit at the movie theater, you popped in to like watch that part.
I will say though, I told Aaron this, I believe. I was like not really feeling the movie at all until like I was like on board with it a little bit. I was like, okay, this is we'll see what happens. But then at the scene after, I don't even remember her name, she gets shot with the inverse bullet. Like they're going, like they do the time transfer. I'm like, okay, now I'm on board.
Right.
Like now this is where I'm invested.
Yeah. I'll say this. I really like the movie. After we rewatched Inception like a month or so ago, and I really paid more attention to it. It's now like one of my favorite movies of all time. And so I was really excited for Tenet after watching Inception. And I was on board pretty much with it through the whole thing because I love John David Washington. And I thought Pattinson was great in it. But the one who really blew me away was Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
Because he plays such a good villain. I was just like, wow. Like, I mean, I've seen Kenneth Branagh in a lot of stuff. But this one, I was like, wow.
Yeah,
this dude is an asshole.
I didn't even recognize that it was him. And until like halfway through the movie, I was like, well,
because they never like showed you until like halfway through the movie who her husband was, and then
I just like didn't realize it was him for a while.
But I mean, like everything follows the Nolan beats, where you have like something big happen at the beginning of the movie, then a shit ton of expository stuff happen in between, so that they like explain what's gonna happen next and all that, and then you start to get into the action, and then there's a big climactic
with the dialogue you can't understand.
Yeah,
that's
the time travel just goes way over your head. If you are not like if you're not taking notes like you're in a 10th grade science class, you're not gonna understand like how that goes.
Yeah, they're and being unable to understand what the people are saying is a big drawback when it comes to that, because especially that scene, like whenever they kidnap John David Washington and take him to interrogate him to where the device is that they stole. You hear like Kenneth Branagh's voice like superimposed over him, but it's like
it's all reversed.
Yeah, well, he's talking in reverse, but then it plays in forward time for him. But you can't fucking understand what he says in forward time. And then John David Washington is responding to his questions. And then you hear another, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what are they saying?
Yeah.
You know? And then, obviously, they're wearing the mask, so you can't hear them when that happens.
Yeah.
And, I mean, aside from that, though, that is, like, the only real issue I have with the movie. And the story, like, Christopher Nolan has kind of just, like, ditched characters now. Like, the characters in Inception were important characters. Like, especially, Hobbs, like he was important, but like the other people, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, and Tom Hardy's character, they were compelling enough. Like, they were like one-dimensional, but they had a purpose.
Yeah.
But John David Washington's literally the lead in this, and he has basically no character.
No.
He doesn't even have a name.
No.
His name and credited is the protagonist.
Oh my god.
Which I mentioned to
that.
you that I kind of liked that.
Yeah.
Where like he doesn't have a name, and that's fine. Like, because in this movie, he kind of like he plays a very James Bond-esque character.
Yeah.
Who has to do all this espionage and figure out what's going on.
Like, supposedly...
It's essentially if Christopher Nolan made James Bond and was able to, like, throw his own shtick in with it. Like, he made a Bond film.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
It felt very Bond.
Supposedly, Christopher Nolan gave, like, a couple of Bond movies to, like to the cast and, like, hey, watch this and whatever.
Was it
And
GoldenEye?
Well, I don't know what it was, but then he was like, yeah, just act like how you think James Bond is. And that's like why they're like, that's how they act.
Yeah.
Like they're acting how they think that James Bond is.
Huh.
So that's like what John David Washington and I'm assuming Robert Pattinson is doing.
Yeah.
In the film.
And that's what like Mike just said it felt very Bond like.
It
and it did. And I think that's one thing, because I love the Bond movies. So I think that's one thing that like really kept me enthralled was he was playing the spy who had to get in, figure out like whenever he's talking to the wife and he's like, let me sit down with your husband, and he's like faking being this guy to get into these places to do this, and I'm like, my anxiety was like so heightened because he like goes in and like meets the guy, and I'm like what's going, and then he's like, screwing my wife, and I'm like, oh, like he's gonna die, and then he tells him how he's gonna die, and I'm like, how's he gonna get out of this?
Yeah,
that's what always like that. I think that's one reason I like the Bond movies is because my anxiety gets so heightened when Bond gets into a situation where I'm like, he ain't getting out of this. I'm like, this is about to get really bad.
Yeah.
And staying on track with that, the fight scenes are just like visually amazing.
Oh yeah, like the way that he shoots stuff that's going in reverse along with the stuff that's going forward. That's
like the first time
amazing.
that we see him fight somebody going in reverse,
which is
it's like that's impressive.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
himself.
He's fighting himself.
Yeah.
But then whenever they do it again, they like show it from the inverse perspective.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Like it's really.
I can't imagine sitting down and being like and trying to put that. Yeah, mapping it out.
Yeah.
Like,
It makes me wonder if John David Washington, like, I mean, I'm sure when the Blu-ray comes out, you'll be able to see the behind the scenes of how they did it. But it makes me wonder if they had him if they had a guy in a green suit doing all the choreography with him, and then they did the same shot, but with him doing it with the other guy in green screen. That way they could superimpose the shot into where he's not actually making contact with himself.
Oh,
it's just him doing it to the green screen guy, but they have it perfectly choreographed and timed
maybe
to where the other version of himself is
Yeah.
doing everything in reverse. Because I was like wondering, I'm like, how do they? I'm like, I get like a lot of it is probably like just superimposed, but the fight scenes like that, I'm like, that has to be shot twice at least, and then refilmed.
Yeah,
and reverse so that it matches up properly.
Yeah, like the one scene where he literally is like he's holding him, like whenever we see it from the forward perspective, he's holding him and then he like throws him up onto the wall.
Yeah,
I'm like, how does that happen? You know, it's insane.
Yeah.
Which, and Nolan, every time he does, like Inception, every time he does a movie, he ends up like creating some kind of I don't want to use the term groundbreaking, but he usually does something that's so unique that it's just ingrained in everyone's minds. And they're like, yeah, I mean, like, and I think that's why people love Nolan, is because he's not afraid to push the envelope of what already exists.
Yeah.
I couldn't really understand the climax sequence though. Like there was a lot of shit happening during that.
Let's take a moment to talk about Aaron Taylor Johnson playing Tom Hardy.
Oh yeah, that was great. Whenever he first showed up, I thought that he was Tom Hardy. I was like, oh, Tom Hardy's in the movie.
Until he opened his mouth.
And then he started talking. I'm like, oh, wait, it's actually just Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Which surprised me because I looked at him and I was like, is that Aaron Taylor Johnson? And then he started talking and I was like, that is Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, and it's crazy that he was like just not even revealed to be in the movie until he shows up in the movie.
And I remember saying to you, I was like, didn't didn't Tom Hardy do that Capone movie recently? And Nolan was like, "Hey, buddy," and he's like, "No, I can't. I'm doing the Capone movie." And he's like, "Damn it." He's like, "Well, I'll get that guy who died in Avengers."
I think I would have been distracted if it was Tom Hardy. I'm glad that it was Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Well, and especially for such a small part that he had, like he was literally just there for expository stuff.
Yeah, he explains how
their battle plan.
Yeah, working in reverse works, and then I did really like at the end whenever like after Neil like comes back and he's like, "Oh yeah." And there's like, "I thought you were with the other guys." He's like, "Oh, I switched gears halfway through."
Yeah.
And then they have the they succeed in the plan, not destroying they have the like 3 pieces of the algorithm or whatever, and then they're all like, "Ha ha ha." And he just like pulls a gun on him, and he's like, we don't see each other ever again.
Oh yeah, like that whenever he does that and he like takes apart, like they split the algorithm because it's 9 parts, so they split and he gives 3 to each of them, and he's like, "Do whatever you're gonna do with it." He's like, "But if I ever see you, I'll kill you."
Yeah.
And the guy's like, and then was it Robert Pattinson or John David Washington who was like, "You're not gonna look too hard, are you?" He's like, "Oh, I will." Like, as he's walking away.
Yeah, I really like that part. The ending was great too.
Yeah, the ending, I was just about to say, one of my favorite parts of the movie is when you find out that Robert Pattinson this is the end of his run with John David Washington's character. And then you come to find out because he says, "You never told me who recruited you." And he says to John David Washington, he says, "You did." But I can't remember when he said it. It was like years from now or something. He goes, "Years from now we meet." And he said,
"Well, no, it's his past. It's Neil's past, but it's John David Washington's future."
So they're going opposite directions.
Yeah. So clearly he went back a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
And then
so if he was there for that.
Yeah. But I did like that. He's like, "Who recruited you?" He's like, "You haven't figured it out yet."
I figured it out.
Yeah. He's like, "You did."
Yeah, I figured it out. Like whenever he's like, he kept asking him like, "Who recruited you?" I'm like, "It's you, dumbass." Like I kept like thinking that. I'm like, it's so obvious.
There's something about this movie where you can't really like. I don't know if it's just like my personality, but I tend to play like a guessing game, like trying to figure out how the movie's going to go whenever I'm watching it. And I was doing that during the movie. And this is a movie where you really can't do that because it's so unique. Mm-hmm. Like whenever he's fighting the reverse guy and then Neil goes and catches the other guy, I didn't understand at that point that it was the same person. I thought that it was 2 different guys. So I was like, oh, the one that John David Washington's fighting is probably Neil. Because they established this later in the movie, but I had this assumption. If you touch yourself in the future or the past, then you're going to fucking die. Yeah. Complete annihilation is what they say.
Yeah.
So I thought that it was like Neil saw that it was John David Washington's character and was like, "Ooh," and then he booked it back. And then I thought that he was fighting Neil in reverse, but it turns out that it was just him the whole time.
Yeah. And yeah, because I knew from the moment where he took the mask off of him and he saw his face and he like booked it, I was like, "Oh, that's John David Washington." I was like, that has to be it. Because they never showed, and I'm like, yeah, it's one of the 2.
Yeah.
Like, so I knew that was...
Honestly, in the moment, I was just lost, so... So it was a great reveal once that was all revealed for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff where it's hard to predict stuff like that. I did like a lot, though, that... So, do you think that Neil knew that he was going to die? Because he tells John David Washington, "I didn't want to tell you that you were about to fight yourself because instinct is to fight against what's already happened. Yeah. So it's already happened. You are going to fight yourself. You're going to try and shoot yourself in the head 3 times. Mm-hmm. And it's like instinct is to fight against that. So do you think that Neil knew he was going to die at the end of the movie? Because he goes, and then that begs the question, what did he do with his 3 pieces of the algorithm? Because he goes and unlocks the door.
Hey, I'm going to pull a Sarah Connor quote out of my ass here and go, "God, a person could go crazy thinking about this stuff."
That's another thing. It's kind of funny.
I mean...
in the very beginning of the movie, it's like, try not to think about it. And that's kind of like...
that's time travel in any movie. The only movie that ever explained it to me... Well, 2 movies that ever explained time travel to me in layman's terms, where I'm like, oh, I can wrap my mind around that, are Terminator and Back to the Future. But and Endgame too, but like it changes your perception of it.
Yeah.
And then this movie's like, what the fuck?
It's just kind of like Nolan being like, hey, just enjoy the ride. I think that's kind of funny.
It reminds me of Austin Powers and Goldmember, where he's talking about time travel, and Basil goes, just sit back and try to enjoy yourself. And he goes, and he looks at the camera and goes, and that goes for you all too. Like that's what made me like think. I'm like, oh, that's Nolan just going, relax, just enjoy it. It's a Bond movie with time travel.
Yeah,
like,
enjoy what it looks like because it's
oh my god, every movie that Nolan makes is visually incredible.
So the thing that they all take parts of, doesn't Robert Pattinson give his back to the protagonist?
Oh, does he? He gives his...
I thought he
So
did.
he gives him 6 pieces? Oh, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. He does give it back to him.
Oh, I don't want this.
Yeah.
That was like, what was the point of fucking splitting it up?
Well, he
Where
did
am I
that...
supposed to take 6 pieces,
Did
man?
he do that so... I don't think Aaron Taylor Johnson's character had a name either, but did he do that so that he couldn't see him? Because he probably would have been pretty pissed if he saw that. Because he gave it to him and then...
Well, yeah, because he walks off.
Yeah, he hitched a ride with him. He's like, hey, I gotta go back. Because he knew that he had to go back in time to save them. Because I like that part where he's like, I'm the only person that can get that door unlocked in time. Because, and then we see that in the beginning where he's like, during that, what are they doing in there? Oh yeah, they need the, are they there to steal the painting, or is that just,
No, they're there to destroy the painting.
Yeah.
Because that's,
I feel like they're there for something else though. I think they're there because of the payload or whatever, which is a piece of the algorithm, because that's why they go in. But my point was, they show that in the beginning whenever the airlock goes and he's unlocking the doors and shit. So that was my point to that tangent. But
no, I thought that when they went into the what was it called again too? The something. No, I can't remember what, like
the oscillating thing.
In Oslo, what was the thing called? It was the big like vault. But it had a name, a very recognizable name, and I can't remember what it was called now. But they went there.
The Freeport?
Freeport, that was it. But he went there because they wanted to destroy the drawing, so they set fire or exploded.
I don't think that was their main purpose. I think that they went there.
It wasn't the main purpose, but he made the deal with
her
that he would destroy that in the Freeport, but then he knew that they were going to do that, so he took
that's
the
right. That's right. I think that they wanted to get, supposedly the piece of the algorithm was hidden in the Freeport.
Well, and that's where they also discovered the inversion machine. Yeah. There was one of the inversion machines in his vault at the Freeport.
Yeah.
Which I think that was what they discovered, because they were trying to figure out where he got that technology from. I think that's what it was. Their objective was they wanted to find out where he gets the inversion. They wanted to find out how he got the inversion technology, and then they happened upon that
because they sent it from the past. It's so confusing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. That time travel is like the most confusing time travel I've ever. Like, great movie. Don't get me wrong. I love this movie, but the time travel's confusing.
Yeah. I feel like you really need to watch it one more time or a few more times to even comprehend how he's trying to get across.
I'd gladly watch
I would too.
More than once.
It's long though. I didn't think it was that long.
I didn't feel the time.
I
really didn't feel the time of it.
Yeah, like
honestly,
at the end battle, whenever like after they separate the pieces, I was like, oh, this could go for like another 25 minutes.
Yeah,
like I literally thought that it was like not even over yet.
No, I mean, and it did not like it does not feel like it. It's almost 3 hours long. It doesn't feel like it, and that's props to Nolan for keeping you that engaged and enthralled in it the whole time. Because like that shit when she kills Kenneth Branagh's character, I was like, she killed him before they got the thing. I'm like, no. I'm like, what's gonna happen now? Like everything that happens, like your anxiety's just like completely heightened.
That one really got my anxiety going. I was like, oh shit, what are they doing?
Yeah, I was like, she just ended the world. I was like, holy shit. And then it's like, no, we got it. It's done.
Yeah. So I mean,
it's one of those movies where it's blink and you'll miss it.
Oh, for real.
If you're not paying attention, like you have to go into this movie on a pot of coffee, completely focused, ready to watch it. And I mean, you won't regret it. You will not regret it. It's a great movie. I'm sure it'll be up for awards when awards are a thing.
Oh yeah, again. If they ever have awards again.
Yeah.
That's one thing with Nolan movies. At least the majority of them. They're long movies, but they don't feel like you can't feel the length.
No, like Inception.
I felt it like you don't feel it in Inception at all. I felt it in Dunkirk though.
Dunkirk, yes.
I was not a fan of Dunkirk. It was like the past 10 years I was like kind of falling out of grace with Christopher Nolan because I enjoyed Inception on a technical level and everything else, and then they ruin it with the twist at the end of the story with the love bullshit. I'm sure I don't know if you watched Inception.
I've never watched it.
Well, they ruined it in the last 10 minutes. And then Dunkirk was so mind-numbingly boring to me.
You said Inception. Did you mean Interstellar?
I'm sorry, Interstellar.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I was like, hold on. I was like, why are you saying Inception?
Sorry, I thought I said Interstellar. Sorry, I thought I said it. But yeah, Interstellar, they ruined the movie in the last 10 minutes. And then Dunkirk was so mind-numbingly boring to me. I was just like, I like got what he was doing with the passage of time, but I was just sitting in the movie seat just staring at the movie screen.
Do you think that Nolan watched Dunkirk again and was like, time. What if I do something?
No, that's travel? I mean, all of his movies are about a significant amount of movies of his are about time. Inception with the dilation of time.
Yeah.
Interstellar with the black hole dilation of time. Dunkirk with the shooting it in different sections of time, like one week, one day.
And The Dark Knight is 8 years after.
Yeah,
The Dark Knight
Rises. And obviously with Tenet, of course. Yeah.
Dark Knight Rises is 8 years after.
And then Batman
he loves time.
Batman fights Time Master.
Oh.
Yeah, but like people were saying like this is the most Christopher Nolan movie that he's ever made. It's like so Nolan because it deals with time.
It's the most Nolan that ever Nolan.
Yeah. And then you can't fucking understand anything that anybody's saying, which is a weird thing that he's just been doing since 2012 or whatever.
Say it in reverse.
Yeah, but I don't know. I enjoyed it nonetheless. I'm excited to see what else. Like he's like the only person that's really making original script big blockbuster movies anymore.
He is. He honestly is.
Him and Quentin Tarantino are like the only two last bastions of original filmmaking because everything else is just Disney pumping stuff out or Marvel or remakes and stuff. Like there's hardly any new movies coming out anymore.
Well, and everybody's either remaking something that's based on an existing IP or anything else. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're a corporation, you're like, oh yeah, let's play it safe. Let's use an existing IP. We know we're going to make money. Cool and everything. But like, branch out. Do something original. That's why I like Tenet so much is because it's original. I had never seen something done that way. I was like, cool. He mixed James Bond and time travel. That's awesome. Like, that's one thing where I was like, hey, this is great. Like, this might be my favorite movie of 2019. Or
2019?
2020. I'm sorry. My mind is still back in 2019 because I don't want to realize that I'm in here right now. But this is probably my favorite movie of 2020 so far. That and then Trolls 2 is right
obviously.
after.
Obviously Trolls 2.
Obviously Trolls 2 is right after.
I'm pretty partial to Sonic.
Sonic came out in 2019.
Was it?
No, it didn't. It came out this year.
Are you sure?
February.
I don't know.
We went to go watch it. It was one of our first recordings.
I don't know.
Well, after we're done recording, we'll go back and check and disprove Shawn, and then we'll make another podcast talking about how we're going to shame Shawn because he doesn't remember it was this year.
One thing
it was right before theaters started shutting down right when Sonic came out.
Yeah, that was like the last big
And we
release.
talked about that because we were recording that and we're like, and this is probably the last movie we're going to see for a while because theaters are closing down.
Yeah.
No, don't you start giving us that bullshit.
No. So what you were saying about original movies, you're not wrong, but there's actually more new movies than ever. It's just wide release wise, it's all the big corporations.
Oh yeah.
I'm just clarifying that.
But like I don't. Well, there's gonna be no new movies coming out from here until the end of the year because they all got pushed back, except for No Time to Die. Which, if that comes out, I'll be happy to watch it.
It's supposed to come out in 2 months, so we'll see how things are going by then. But
Probably not.
I mean, this is probably gonna be my favorite movie of 2020. So
yeah,
I'm kind of like, I'm fine with that.
I didn't watch No Time to Die trailer until not yesterday, 2 days ago, where
at the movies.
Oh yeah.
And then I was like, oh yeah, okay. And I really think that it's kind of stupid that like, are him and Blofeld gonna team up? Like that's what it kind of seems.
I don't think that they're gonna team up. I think that he is going to give him vital information that James can use. Because I mean, Blofeld's not getting out of prison.
It's a real shame that Spectre was awful, and because of that, Christopher.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but I love Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, Christoph.
And he would have been. I mean, he's a great Blofeld, but that movie just did not do it justice.
And because he was
Blofeld is the iconic Bond villain. He's what Dr. Evil was based off of.
Because he was in that, he wasn't in Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. And you can tell that it was
Tim Roth.
Clearly Tim Roth's character that he was going to play.
Oh, definitely.
But I like Tim Roth, so it's okay. But it would have been great with Christoph Waltz instead.
Definitely. I mean, Christoph Waltz, like, he is one of the main reasons that Inglourious Bastards is in my top 10. Actually, he's top 5. I take that back. Because Inglourious Bastards is in my top 5.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. It's my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie.
And sure. He is just like, I don't know. Did he win any awards
for
that movie?
This was his first movie too. Really?
Really?
Pretty much, yeah.
Holy shit! Like, I mean, that dude should have won for Best Actor.
Yeah,
because he is phenomenal in that movie.
Yeah, he's really great.
I mean, just ridiculous.
Well, do we want to grade Tenet then?
Oh, yeah, I think we should, just because this is a new movie that's out.
Yeah,
and I think that it's only right that we do grade it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody else go first.
I'll let Shawn go. We'll go.
I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Like, it was really good. There's no actual character story, which that's just what Nolan's doing anymore. It's just like there's no characters, which
we're gonna focus on action.
Yeah, I like characters a lot, but the plot is confusing. But it's basically just like a huge action movie, which was great though. Yeah. So yeah,
it's a huge action movie, but it's not a just chew your popcorn.
Yeah, you have to pay attention. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
No, I second Shawn 7.5. It has a couple of flaws to it, but all around, it's a great movie. I highly recommend it. If you can go to a theater and watch it, definitely watch it. 7.5. I love it. And like I said, I love John David Washington. I've loved John David Washington since we watched BlacKkKlansman. He's a great leading man, and I really want to see him in more movies. So definitely, 7.5.
And Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up about Robert Pattinson. I had mentioned it to you two before, but I'm going to mention it here. How long before a David Bowie biopic is announced and they cast Robert Pattinson? Because both of you agreed with me that he'd be a great David Bowie.
Yeah. And
I'm going to say it here. Spread the word.
Spread it.
Start making petitions. Because we get him to play David Bowie, who's one of my favorite musicians of all time. So I mean, let's push him into that avenue there.
If it's anything else like our experience with what's happened on the podcast, we're manifesting things to happen in the world.
That's true.
Because every time
we are the catalyst.
Every time we talk about a movie recommendation, it always ends up becoming available on some streaming service.
Yeah, which is weird.
Like a week and a half after.
Let's talk about that real quick because
I didn't get the rate yet.
Mike, yeah, you give me your thing, and then we're gonna talk about that real quick.
So I really haven't had much to say because I have a terrible memory. Most movies I gotta watch 2 or 3 times anyway, let alone this one. But I really did like the action. The action was great. Me not seeing that twist coming, him fighting himself and all that, I haven't felt surprise like that, in a theater in a long time. So that alone made the experience good. I had a great time. Just because I can, I'm going to give it an 8. I'm going to go higher than you
I
guys.
almost gave it an 8.
Yeah.
I almost did.
Yeah, it's close for sure.
Yeah,
It's
like
very close.
I just
7.9. If I could just switch really quick.
No, we round up here, okay?
Oh, well, I'm gonna stick it.
Yeah, I really did enjoy it. It's definitely one of those ones, you know, like you guys said, I would totally be down to watch it again.
Oh yeah.
But you were saying, Aaron.
Oh yeah. So our last recommendation for me, which was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, just recently, and it was probably 2 days after we posted the podcast, became available on Amazon Prime Video for free. And I showed Shawn this, and I went, seriously, what is going on here? I was like, we talked about this movie 2 days ago, and all of a sudden, it's available to everyone to watch who has Prime. I'm like, this is weird, man.
And I recommend Suburban Commando, and then Sean's like, oh yeah, I own that. Yeah. After we buy it.
No, like, it's so weird. Like, I don't know if, like, I know we had this discussion about, like, deja vu and everything.
The universe
but, like,
is weird.
There's just, like, universal shit that is just happening where we're just like, what is going on?
Which I thought was what happened with our actual recommendation for this episode. But
yeah, how weird was that?
Well,
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, well, let's just get right into it. So we had a recommendation last week by myself. I recommended Akira, a 1988 movie directed by Katsuhiro Otomo. Directed. And so the thing about that is, I knew that there was going to be a 4K Blu-ray release of the movie soon.
Oh, okay. So you
but I did not know that they were going to be screening it in theaters. So why we're bringing this up is we all had the opportunity to go see it in the movie theater.
Yes.
Which I think was an incredible experience, and I'm very thankful that I got to see it in theaters.
I still say that Jurassic Park was my favorite theater-going experience this year.
Yeah, for sure.
But this was probably second.
It's
yeah, but you didn't go see Back to the Future in theaters.
I did not, but I did see Empire, which
true.
I was excited about. But I don't know, man. Jurassic Park just felt so much better than Empire, and I love Empire more than anything.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Jurassic Park.
Relevant.
So anyway, yeah. Let's talk back to Akira.
Akira. I'll do this plot synopsis here. A secret military project endangers Neo-Tokyo when it turns a biker gang member into a rampaging, psychotic psychopath who can only be stopped by two teenage groups of psychics, basically.
Which they're not even like teenagers.
Kind of, yeah.
They're not even.
We'll get there, but anyway.
I was a little confused on that.
I know how you feel. I know how you feel about the movie, Aaron.
I love this movie.
Before I ask Mike how he felt about it, I wanted to bring something up that I noticed this time. I really, and you didn't get it because you were out of the theater at the time.
Oh, at the very beginning. Yeah.
But I really,
to piss, man.
I really enjoyed. So after the main explosion,
Red Robin Coke Zeros does it.
After the main explosion, and then it zooms out, it like dissolves into red, and it has that like design. Mm-hmm. And then it zooms. The red comes back into full color, and it shows Tokyo, Neo-Tokyo. I really like that because the red, it looks like one of Akira's cells.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
It looks like it's Akira's cells, and then it kind of just dissolves into the landscape of Neo-Tokyo, which was really fucking cool looking. I was watching it, and I was like, and by the way, like, this movie was like, it's like 148 like cells or second or something like that.
Yeah.
And watching it on the big screen in 4K, it looks fucking incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. It looks amazing.
That actually disappoints me that you said that, because like me being a comic book like illustrator, I love putting subtle things in like panels like that harken back to something else. And that really disappoints me that I wasn't in the theater to like catch that little subtle like thing.
Yeah, I was like,
because like this movie, and like you said, you know how I feel about it from like an art perspective, because this was revolutionary. This vamped up in the animation style and anime like all together. And that's why like I really love this movie, is because it was such a pinnacle of that. And the story's amazing too.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just irritates me that I didn't get to like witness that.
So a
Damn you, Red
disclosure:
Robin.
we watched it in Japanese with English subtitles, American subtitles.
American.
Yeah,
We speak American here.
That's
American.
ignorant of me. Anyway, English subtitles. So
It's very boomer of you.
that might have influenced your experience, Mike. I want to know how you felt. about
Unfortunately, that's what I was going to lead with. I'm going to try to not have it hinder my thoughts. It's not that I didn't like it. It was just really hard for me to follow. I think what it was, because I thought about it ever since we saw it, was the screen was so big. Like I'm focusing on the words that are pretty big right in front of my face.
Well, it's a good thing we switched seats too. Because you'd have been completely
I would have been
lost.
completely lost.
You'd be looking at 1/3 of the screen down here. And like,
Yeah.
What's
But-
going on up top?
But it felt like that even at our new location of seats. But so like I just feel like I lost so much. I mean, I got the general concept, Akira is not a person, it's the power or whatever.
Well, he was a person.
He was.
Well, he was a person.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he exploded.
Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, okay.
And that shows
Well, yeah.
Well,
'Cause
that's-
there's different parts
Yeah.
of his being
Yeah.
later on.
That was the beginning of the movie. That explosion, it was Akira having like a meltdown.
a Tetsuo level meltdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so over
So
my head.
yeah, and then
But-
there's plot relevance to that because they got into a war because of that. Tokyo did, and
Because they think they got like nuked or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And
they
then
accuse some other nation.
they have
of
that
war.
conversation at the council meeting where they're like, well, who's to say that Akira was even the cause of the war? Because
Yeah.
the colonel's like, we need to put a stop to this fucking thing now, talking about Tetsuo, because we will be fucked. And they're
Which
like,
it's almost contradictory because it's like, dude, you're running the lab that is having these kids with powers.
yeah,
Like,
but it's not his fault though. I'll get into that later,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
continue, Mike, please.
So I mean, there's just a ton that I missed, unfortunately.
We'll be able to enlighten you.
Yeah, yeah.
the
So I mean,
enlightenment of Lord Akira.
kind of like Tenet. Like, unfortunately, I'm probably not going to have a ton of input. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I just feel like I missed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, this is also a movie you need to watch a couple of times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
this is
Well,
like
that makes me feel a little bit better. Right?
I think this is the 4th time that I've watched it
Mhm.
all. Twice in English, twice in Japanese.
Well, you even said wasn't it you that said on the ride back home, like every time you watch it, you catch something.
Yeah.
One of you said that. I forget who.
yeah, what were you saying, Aaron? You said that you noticed something that happened in the movie.
Oh, yeah, there was like just subtle things like that the Colonel said, and I'm trying to like I'm trying to
It
remember
was whenever
like,
he killed
specifics.
he said it's whenever he's going to get Tetsuo after he flew out of the lab and they're going to arrest him and he's like, shoot that guy. And then he's like,
oh yeah,
arrest the...
Yeah, and then he says arrest the rest of the council, the high council members, and I'm like, he just threw a coup.
Yeah.
I'm like, he just threw a coup. He's having all like this is a military coup that's being like. But I understand, like I sympathize with his.
I was going to say that's
thing.
something that I really like about the movie is like the movie starts and you look at the Colonel as like a bad guy.
Yeah.
Because he
Oh yeah, because
he's capturing.
He's big. He's
Yeah.
imposing.
He's capturing back Takashi, and then he basically
Takes
steals
Tetsuo,
Tetsuo multiple times. And then whenever it gets to Tetsuo breaks out because his powers are manifesting at such a rapid rate, he's like, okay, yeah, I need to get this under control, or else
this needs to end, or else we're gonna have another meltdown.
And then he's like, and that's funny because they're like, you're being under arrest. The council deems you unfit. And he's like, I'm not handing it over to those guys at a time like this.
Yeah.
Like, I need to stop that kid.
No, yeah, and
And
that's
he becomes like a likable character. Like, you think of him as a villain at first, and then he's actually like one of the protagonists.
no, yeah, he is because like whenever he and that's one thing that makes him a protagonist is because he starts out as this imposing character who you're just like, oh, he's the leader of this whatever, and then whenever it gets to the point where Tetsuo's powers are becoming too much for him to control, and he starts causing more damage than anything, he overthrows the council, but for a good cause. He's like, listen, I'm the only person who can actually stop him. You guys aren't going to be able to do jack shit if you arrest me right now. And he says that to the guys, like, after they have the shootout, the quick shootout. He's like, stop. He's like, listen. He's like, look at the big picture here. We need to stop him. This has nothing to do with politics or anything. We have to stop him or else Armageddon's going to happen. Like, and then they all just, like, drop their weapons. And it's like, yes, like, that's what makes it, like, and that he has that commanding authority to be like, hey, listen, we need to do this. And you guys all know that we need to do this. And the other thing, like, that I appreciate about his character is they quarantine off that whole Olympic arena, but he himself, he doesn't send people in. He himself goes in with like a Desert Eagle to go kill him himself.
I was going to mention that after they use Soul and then Tetsuo goes up and destroys it. He's like, fine, I'll do it myself. And he climbs into the rubble of the Olympic Stadium with his fucking gun.
Yeah, which I was like, man, I'm like, the Colonel is like a really good protagonist because he takes it upon himself. He's like, listen, like, I got all these guys at my disposal, but I am going in because this is my fault. So I'm going in to make sure that this kid gets killed before something worse happens.
There's a lot going on here. Like, so obviously there's the biker gang and whatever. It's only relevant for the beginning of the story. But then you have like the revolution that's happening where they want Akira to come back.
Which should we go back and just start from
yeah,
the
sure.
beginning?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we love talking about the third act because it's the most engaging part of the movie.
Yeah.
But we need to. I think we need to go back and start from the beginning about what happens, how things progress. Because I mean, the story, and I mean, a lot of people, like, you talk about Akira and people know about it. It's like King Kong or Godzilla. You say, "Oh, Akira," and they go, "Oh, I've heard of that." Because it's one of those, like I said to Mike in the Godzilla podcast that we did, 1954 Godzilla, in every top 100 movies of all time that you read, it's on that list somewhere because of its message and everything. But so is Akira. Akira is also on the list of top 100 movies of all time.
Just to interject a bit, Akira is very similar in themes to Godzilla.
Definitely,
Like Akira. So Akira was a test subject. Japan is essentially testing children to try and manifest
like
godlike abilities, so that they could have an edge. Yeah, so that they can have an edge and be a world power. That is a catastrophic destruction because they awakened Akira's power and they developed too quickly, and then they still do it. They continue to do it.
Yeah.
And then, it's just like, it's a very anti-nuclear message.
Yeah.
And
it's don't mess with powers that can literally blow up in your face.
Yeah.
And that's the message of Godzilla. It's the same message as Akira. Yeah, but I mean, like, it's those type of messages that make these movies so renowned and so influential, where anytime you study, like in a film class, you're definitely going to have those two movies mentioned. Like, you need to, if you're gonna watch 100 movies this year, you need to watch this and this. And like, Akira and Godzilla are always on those lists. And Akira,
not only for the message, but
I would say Akira more visually. For the visual art style that was portrayed. Godzilla more for the message, but Akira definitely for the message, but way more for the art style.
Especially for the artistic
because it was
direction.
Just absolutely phenomenal for 1988. My God, and it still holds up. Like, you could watch this and be like, "When was this made?"
Yeah, like it literally looks like it could have been made 10 years
and especially
ago.
the 4K release that we watched, it looks like it was made yesterday. You know?
It's insane. Yeah, I can't believe it.
I could tell it was slightly older, but honestly, if you would have shown this to somebody that had no knowledge of what it was, they probably would have thought that was just an artistic decision.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know, to make it look older. Which,
a little bit of backstory here. Shawn and Josh and I found Akira at Walmart for $5, I think it was. It was the DVD release. I picked it up. I'm like, we're going to watch this. And we watched it, and Shawn and I enjoyed the hell out of it, and Josh was just kind of the whole time, like he was just like, I'm not at all interested in this. But Shawn and I are like, holy shit, this is an amazing movie.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
Yeah,
the artist just
really is
like to be admired. Like, I'm literally awestruck just thinking some of the stuff.
And I mean, like, I don't know, like, I know Shawn appreciates art as much as I do, but like watching the movie and you see things where you're like, okay, that's animated, but that's a painted cell. Like, that's a painted background and they're animating the cell. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, you look at the artistry behind it and everything is just perfectly to scale. And you're like, how many hours did they spend? Because this was before the time of computer animation where you could draw on a tablet and animate in Flash or whatever. I know Flash is dead, but like whatever program you use now. That was before that time. This is when, Scooby-Doo was made, where you had a cell where you had a backdrop painted and then you had another film over top of it, like an acetate with another painted illustration over top of it. Like, I have a Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cell and it's like 3 pieces overlaid. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm like looking at this movie. I'm like, holy shit. Like, how many cells is this like animated over top of and everything?
I know one thing that stuck out to me in regards to the animation was the opening scene where it's like an overshot of Tokyo, or was it Tokyo?
Yeah, regular Tokyo at the time, before the explosion.
Right. And like, that looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, you could see little cars and like,
yeah, I mean, this was groundbreaking to anime in general. Like, you have like the light streaks of the bikes going by,
which I felt was very influenced by possibly Tron.
Yeah,
but a lot of the visuals were influenced by Blade Runner.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, Neo Tokyo is LA straight out of Blade Runner. I mean, and it's just it's beautiful. Like, I love that. I absolutely love that neon hologram quality and everything that just looks so futuristic. Mm-hmm. It looks run down but futuristic. Yeah. And I think that's something that is to be appreciated in futuristic filmmaking.
I love
and they both take place in the same year, coincidentally, 2019.
Yeah.
And then you have probably the most copied animated shot of all time when Kaneda does his side swipe with his car or his bike. That's done in everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, even in Western media, all kinds of animation like that. Like the Star Wars Clone Wars, they have a shot of Obi-Wan on a speeder bike going like sideways.
Breaking.
Like it's one of the most iconic shots ever to be like recreated in animation.
Oh, definitely.
And I think you brought up it being in 2019. It's kind of funny because the Olympics would have been held the next year, 2020.
Yeah.
And the Olympics were supposed to be held in Japan this year.
Yeah.
In Japan in 2020.
In Tokyo.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, obviously it's not at the time because of coronavirus and the pandemic.
Are you
and everything.
saying that Akira is
no,
the
I'm
catalyst?
I'm not implying that. But I was curious. I was wondering if they would have any Akira inspired, ceremonies or whatever.
What if the throne looked the same way?
Oh yeah,
like the Tetsuo.
Yeah.
Had. But what if they purposefully knocked off half of the arm because he rips it off with the robotic arm?
We hardly even talked about the characters, Kaneda and Tetsuo.
I was actually going to just suggest, do you want to start your synopsis from the beginning? And I'm going to let you do it because it's your recommendation.
Well, I don't think we have to go through the whole movie beat by beat.
No, not beat by beat.
Yeah.
But we could talk about the biker gangs.
Yeah.
And how their rival. Speak for me.
Yeah. So Kaneda is the leader of this bike gang. He's the leader of a whole delinquent club, basically, because they come from an orphan home. And he's the leader of a bike gang. They have a tussle with a former or a rival bike gang called the Clowns. And they end up in kind of crossing paths with one of the numbers, as they're called by the Doctor, which I want to bring up at the time. The Doctor calls them just the number. They call them by their number, but the Colonel actually calls them by their name.
Which is a little bit more personable and respectable as the Colonel.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are subtle things that I'll talk about later that he does with the kids that makes it a little bit more. He's not as much of a villain as you come to realize.
But the revolutionaries are trying to escape with one of the children, Takashi, and basically they want to start
down Frank Miller style.
Yeah, they want to start the revolution, but the guy that is trying to free him is murdered because the revolution is having protests and everything. So the rival bike gangs they're having fighting, and then Tetsuo goes off because he's feeling slighted by Kaneda because he's like, don't tell me what to do. I can do things my own way. And then he runs into Takashi having an encounter with him. And that is kind of the catalyst for the whole movie because that sparks his awakening of his powers, his kinetic powers. And because of that, the government captures him and starts beginning tests on him. And basically it's just Tetsuo trying to escape at first, and then Kaneda worried about Tetsuo, but then Tetsuo trying to prove that he is the strongest because he has some burden from his childhood, and Kaneda takes it upon himself to stop Tetsuo because he is obviously his friend, and even says at the one point, if anybody's going to kill Tetsuo, it's going to be us because we're his friends. I really liked a couple of that parts where he's like, he calls Kaneda Connie-chan.
Connie.
Yeah, he's like, Connie-chan.
One of the things that you just said that about how it triggered the mental image of whatever you said. If anyone should kill him, it should be us. When they're leading Kay off to go fight him. And I'm like, you're literally using this chick as a dummy to fight Kaneda. And I'm like, how did she survive? Her body's not meant to like take that much force, but she's literally fighting Tetsuo as like at full force with like the kinetic power, and then she like digs herself out of a crater, and I'm like, she should be dead.
Yeah, she should be dead. And then Tetsuo,
which I mean, they used her because she wanted this. She wanted this revolution to happen, and she wanted this stopped. So I mean, like I can't say that it wasn't warranted because she probably would have been like, this is what we need to do.
And Kaneda's like such a blockhead too. He's like, he doesn't understand really what's happening. He just he's like, oh, Tetsuo's in trouble, so I want to help him. Tetsuo's a bad guy, so I have to stop him, and I like Kay, so I'm gonna hang out with her. And then he's like so heroic from that, but he's also just like such a fucking idiot.
No, yeah, Tetsuo is like he's the perfect everyman in this movie because he is that he's any one of us, because any one of us would have thought the same exact way. It's been like, oh, cute girl, yeah, I want to save her. Oh, my best friend's a douchebag, I need to destroy him. But like he's an everyman, and I think that's what makes him a compelling character in this movie, is because you can relate to him.
Yeah,
I hate using this, but I love using this. He's Kurt Russell in Big Trouble in Little China. Okay. He's the everyman. He has no superpower. He's just wrapped up in this extraordinary situation in where he needs to be the hero. And I think that's what I appreciate most about it, is because he's just the everyman who needs to be a hero.
You say he's an everyman, but then he also pulls these magnificent feats of human strength by jumping off the back of a motorcycle and then keeping running.
Wow.
And then he jumps up on the wheel well of a motorcycle and kicks through the windshield to kick somebody off.
Listen, when any of us have adrenaline kicking in, who knows what we could do?
Fair enough.
They say that, yeah.
But I also like the fact that like he just like he works with his surroundings like Jack Burton does. He grabs like the laser cannon and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go take him out. Yeah. And like that's an iconic shot too. Is Kaneda holding the laser cannon, shooting Tetsuo to try and like kill him or whatever, which fails miserably because the battery's dead.
One thing about that is after he shoots him, you can see like whenever he's sitting on the throne, there's like blood dripping down his shirt, which is like,
but it didn't cut completely
it didn't go through him.
No.
I want to jump back a little bit to after they capture Tetsuo and they're performing tests on him. The colonel tells the doctor, he's like, can we control this power? Because if we can't, then kill him. And then he's like, okay, yeah, sure. Which he obviously doesn't do. But
and then the colonel gets pissed off about later.
I feel like Tetsuo wouldn't have become this massive dickhead villain if it wasn't for the children literally tormenting him.
Yeah.
Like, why did they do that?
They bullied him into being a villain.
Yeah, I don't understand. I think it might be because the girl had a vision of Tetsuo doing that.
Which they thought that this would be the best course of action
and
to
then
stop him from
doing
it, but it actually only caused it. And the children selflessly sacrificed themselves to better it, to make good on it. Which actually costs the lives of millions, so I really don't think that it evens out. But
it costs the lives of millions, but somehow Kaneda and
Kay and the colonels all survive.
Yeah, and they're like at ground zero. But
the flooded sinking of Japan.
But yeah, it's just like they probably thought they wanted to do that to stop him or whatever, but they really caused it. I feel like if Tetsuo would have just like awakened his powers and they were like, "Hey, you can do this now. If you do this and this, you know, he like maybe just because of his personality, he would have ended up becoming that anyway. But I feel like he would have just been in control of his powers.
He would have been pissed off immediately.
Yeah, he wouldn't have like.
You know what? Too, it speaks to how well they directed the movie too, because they're kids.
They are kids. Well, that's
their mentality,
and
I think it works well.
They are kids, but I think you have to remember they were kids with Akira. The Akira explosion happened
in
like 30 years ago. Yeah. So they're still alive. They're over 30 years old. They still look like children,
at least.
But because of that, do they still have the mentality of kids?
I mean, I'm thinking so. Like they kind of like are.
But what I was thinking was like them doing that. It's like, okay, yeah, like. But then I'm thinking back to when I was like 10 years old, and I'm like, yeah, I would have done the same thing, but it would have had adverse consequences, which is what happens in the movie, is because they try to do that. And Tetsuo is like, oh, fuck you. Like, you know, he gets real pissed off about it and, like, throws, like, the battle that happens in the baby room, that he, like, throws them against the wall and, like, breaks out, teleports out of the building and everything. And I'm like, yeah, I get what they were trying to do. You know, she had the vision and she was like, we need to stop this. But, and I think that what they wanted to do, because we were talking about the fever dream on the way back. The fever dream that actually happens to Tetsuo, but it's all a vision because of what the kids are doing to manipulate his mind. I think what their goal was, they wanted to put him in a state of fear to where he wouldn't want to use his powers and he would think he was going insane, that they could just lock him in a foam room and he would never be able to really manifest those powers any further. But what they ended up doing was just pissing him off. So, I mean, like, the kids had good intentions, but it ended up having adverse effects.
And then they make him even more angry by saying that Akira was more powerful than you. And he's like, oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah? Watch this.
Yeah. And then he goes and finds Akira.
And then usually how that goes.
Which is an amazing sequence. Oh, my God. When he raises the capsule out of the ground, the weight of everything that's animated in there, the pipes that have the coolant that drop off, when you watch them like move, they feel like they weigh like 7,000 tons and they just smash tanks and everything, and it's like, oh my God, you know, it's amazing. I mean,
one of the everything scenes that stuck out to me.
Everything in this is animated beautifully. The from soul malfunctioning to soul burning up in the atmosphere.
I don't think it was soul malfunction. I think that it was Tetsuo firing it down into Tokyo.
Oh, I thought that it was just like it burning up, like was just shooting, because they were still manipulating it to shoot.
But we know that Tetsuo has a link to electronics, so I think that he was the one controlling it, going like firing randomly.
I never thought about that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I thought that was just it malfunctioning and shooting, like just in different areas. But that makes more sense now with the robotic arm and everything, that he would have linked into that and just been like causing devastation.
That's one more thing thematically that I think they're trying to get across. So after Soul blows off Tetsuo's arm, he reconstructs it with metal and everything, and then
which looks awesome.
Yeah. And then it starts his powers start going out of control, so it's morphing with him. So he is like fusing with it, and we even see it with Akira's cells. Whenever they're like, he brings out the capsules, there's like 9 capsules. There's like Akira's cells, and it looks like there's technology within them.
Boards, like, behind them.
And I think that it's like, especially being in the 80s, it's kind of like a technological industrial revolution.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's like technology is going to fuse with humankind.
Oh yeah.
Eventually. So I think that's what they were trying to get across. Like, it's going to be like an everyday
circumstance. Yeah. I mean, when we think about it, we rely on technology.
Yeah.
Every day.
Which was clearly not the case when the movie was made, but but it's kind of like, pretty soon technology is going to be indistinguishable between humans and technology. So I thought that was pretty cool and interesting.
It was, yeah, definitely. And I caught that, but I caught that, and every time I watched it, I was like, there's like circuit boards in with the cranial nerves and all that. I'm like, what's up with that?
I do like that too, when they're like, no, I don't remember her name, but she's like arguing with Tetsuo. She's like, no, Akira is like,
Kyoko.
Yeah, she's basically saying like, Akira's dead. Like, she's trying to say that to him, and he's just like not listening to her.
Which is a nice touch, because you think that like they go down they establish early on in the movie when the colonel goes down through the elevator into the underground bunker that there's a structure holding Akira, and like you're like, oh, okay, like they got him contained. Weird, like why do they contain Akira? I mean, I understand why, because they're like, well, he caused World War III and all that. But then later on, the kids, like the first time you're watching this, and Mike, I know it was your first time, you're probably thinking like, oh, what is Akira? What's going on with it? Mm-hmm. And then like every time that someone goes to say something about Akira, it's always cut off. And you're like, they keep trying to say something, but it's not clear. But then whenever he opens the capsule and it's all just these organs and everything that's left over from doing tests to Akira, you're like, oh shit, like he's been dead. This is all that's left. Like, and
it's crazy that they are so worried that he's going to have another meltdown.
Hey, we need to separate.
He's literally like 9 cells, and they fucking put him on absolute zero, like freezing temperatures,
so that it won't reform.
Yeah,
which once it's out of absolute zero,
with the intervention of the kids too, but. Mm-hmm.
Which I made my joke on the way home, where it's just like Akira shows up and he's like, boom, and just starts his bullshit. He's like, I'm back on my bullshit, and just starts his explosion all over again.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, Akira. He's like, hey, boom, explosion.
Yeah, where they're like, hey, it's you, and he's like, boom. Like,
that's pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
I'm trying to think what my favorite part of this movie is, because I do really enjoy the bike gang's fight sequence in the very beginning, and then it just flows so well.
I think something that I really enjoy about this movie is Tetsuo, like Kaneda and Tetsuo's relationship.
Yeah.
Being so like, and it's not to Kaneda. Kaneda sees himself as an older brother to Tetsuo. He's just dicking around.
He does bring it on a little bit though.
Yeah, but he's just like dicking around with him most of the time. But Tetsuo takes it too personally, and he is one of those guys that once he has power, he's like, watch out, and that's. I think that's kind of like one of the things that I really love is you watch Tetsuo's decline as a character because you're like, Tetsuo is just part of this biker gang. He's a kid, you know, they get into trouble, whatever. And then he starts to realize, like, I mean, he starts to have his problems where he's like, oh, like, I don't know what's going on. What's happening to me? And then he starts realizing I have this magnificent power. I have this godlike power that's manifesting in me. And he's like, I don't need to listen to anyone anymore. I am a god. Like, and I mean, I love that arc where he's not helpless and he's tired of people feeling like treating him like he's helpless. And then he just has this vision of, I will just destroy anyone who thinks that I am.
Yeah, but then it comes back at the end after he's lost control and he's morphing into this baby.
Well,
and then he's like,
and that's the thing.
Help me, Kaneda.
That's part of the thing is where he gets, what's a good phrase? He gets too big for his own britches.
I guess.
Like that's kind of the.
Well, they mentioned
the thing is like he thinks he can control it until he can't, and then he goes back to relying on Kaneda to help him because he's scared, he doesn't know what's going on. But he thought he could control this power until it got the better of him, and then there was no escape.
They bring up that the drugs that he takes, he
suppress it.
Yeah, it's keeping his innate powers at bay, and then they take control of him. But I have one question. What does Katsuhiro Otomo have against Kiori? Because she literally gets, like, she's the most downtrodden character in this entire movie. Kaori, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell, man? She's just trying to
She honestly has the worst, like, character progression because she just gets completely shit on every single step of the way.
Like, she living in that group home, and the girl that she lives with hates her.
Yeah.
And then she goes out with Tetsuo, and then she gets beaten up because of it.
Because of Tetsuo.
Yeah. And then she sees Tetsuo has, like, this power, and
then she goes to try to help him and ends up dying because of it.
And then he fucking kills her.
Yeah.
It's not his fault, but...
No.
Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, I mean, I mean...
Maybe it's just to demonstrate,
no, I understand why he wrote that character, because you're, like, supposed to be like, yo, like, this is not for us. Like, we should not have this power and everything, because it's kind of one of those things. It's like, if I think that his whole thing was like, if you got this power, how would you use it? Because they mentioned that the kids say he made his choice.
Yeah.
And he wanted to use it to basically,
he wanted to show he was stronger than Akira. Basically.
In the simplest terms, he wanted to be a bully.
He wanted to be the strongest.
Yes. Yeah. He wanted to show that he was way more powerful than anyone else. He wanted to show that he was a god, but in the wrong way. He wanted to show that he could just decimate anything without a second thought. And that's what...
He wanted to be an amoeba and devour everything, as Kay says.
And that's what Kyoko said, is he made his choice. And that's completely apparent. Like, Tetsuo could have used those powers for good, and he was just like, nope, I'm tired of being stepped on. I am tired of being the little brother. I'll ascend to godhood and show everyone that I'm way more powerful than they know. And, I mean, it's, like I said, from a story perspective, this movie is fantastic because you have that character arc. You have the kid who's like, quit treating me like this, and then you have him get these powers, and he just is like a kid in a candy store with them. He's like, I will just, I'll fuck you all up every day. Like, and that's one thing that I really like about that. And I know I talked to you about the comic book that I'm working on, and the character who is the antagonist, which I won't say a whole lot, but he has a cloak and it's red, resembling Tetsuo's, because he is that god character who was bullied kind of as a kid, that he's like, I've ascended, you're not going to push me around anymore, I will cause destruction to every planet that I step on.
What a great look that costume is.
It really is. And I mean, it's iconic.
It is.
And especially once he gets the robotic arm, it's even more so. I mean, I actually looked up a couple days ago, like the cosplays of Tetsuo, where they have the white t-shirt with the cutoff sleeves and the jeans, but they have the robotic arm and the red cloak, but they have the robotic arm where it's morphing. And like it's people who stand like out in the doorway to get their pictures taken, where it's the gigantic arm like morphed into the floor. And I'm like, that's really cool.
So after Tetsuo starts losing his shit because he can't control his powers anymore, the kids awaken Akira, who has I'm not exactly clear on what happens. They basically fuse his cells back together.
Yeah,
and they kind of like
break.
Yeah, they kind of like
reform
reanimate
him.
his soul essentially. But he also has another meltdown. But he takes them and leaves. He basically creates a second universe.
He has a meltdown, but it's not really a meltdown. It's more of a they refer to it in the movie as Akira's transcendental awakening.
Oh yeah.
Which I guess he could have, because he seemed completely at peace when they reanimated him, and I feel like it was another one, but it was one done in good conscience, where Tetsuo and thinking about it, Tetsuo became this amorphous monster, an amoeba that wanted to consume everything, like you said. And I think that it was more of a how's the best? It was more of a help than a
they clearly
destruction. Like
they awakened them for help.
Yeah, like Akira was like, I have to destroy this monster before it becomes something that no one can control. So I mean, that's one of the best things, is that he was able to. They awakened him, and he had another awakening to help humanity versus hinder it. Because if they had let Tetsuo go, he would have just consumed and destroyed everything on the planet. So, I mean, Neo Tokyo's destruction was a very small percentage of what could have happened if Akira hadn't intervened.
Yep. And I do like it where he's like, he technically like creates a new universe, as the doctor realizes before he dies. And then I don't remember the one kid's name, but he asks Kaneda, he's like, is Tetsuo dead? And he's like, yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I wonder if he actually is dead.
I don't think that Tetsuo is dead. The way that I took it, and I mean, you might have a similar opinion to me, is that he just became kind of the Akira consciousness that exists within that smaller universe that was created.
I think that,
because like Akira, and they say this throughout the movie, Akira is just kind of a consciousness based upon these other beings that have existed with these immense powers that they manifest into a human form, that Tetsuo just kind of became part of that consciousness. And that's the name that it is assumed based on the being that became that transcendental god that caused that much destruction. Like, and it almost just kind of feels like, and I'm thankful that they didn't make a sequel to it or anything. Because it's just kind of you assume that's going to happen over and over throughout this storyline, but it's just kind of that consciousness that assumes the being that created that much destruction is called that. Because I think that the sequel would have been called Tetsuo.
Well,
it just would have been the same movie.
Well, kinda, yeah.
Well, Mike, we've kind of been rambling over here. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, honestly, like I was just thinking about that. I was like,
that's
man,
okay.
Mike hasn't...
I said that going into this because I knew I wasn't gonna have much input. I mean, I'm gonna go back. I still have your copy. I still want to watch it in English because.
Well, my copy.
Oh, was it yours?
Yeah.
Okay. It was at his house, so
I let him borrow it.
Okay.
Right?
But I still want to go back and watch it. Great visuals, like you already said. You know, one of the parts that sticks out is what you guys already talked about. The whatever the hell that thing was, the big metal
capsule
thing.
Akira capsule.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much more to add that hasn't already been said.
I want to say that it is a funny movie too. Like
Oh, it
there are parts that
definitely
like
is,
literally
I kept missing like
you'd probably hear us chuckle and then you just like didn't get.
I was like,
it's a lot of visual comedy on top of some things that they say.
and that's the thing, like that's what difficult. I missed out on because like I said, I was looking at the words the whole time because it wasn't like a couple lines of dialogue and then blah blah.
It is a dialogue heavy movie.
Dialogue.
Like, I wanted to bring up to you. There's a couple scenes that you're gonna remember parts of this movie where the mole that was in the council that Ryu was working with.
Yeah.
There is like where he's like, "You sold me out," and like he's like having the heart attack and he like shoots him and everything. There, when we watch Godzilla versus Mothra or Mothra versus Godzilla, you're gonna like have flashbacks to that because there's two guys who buy the Mothra egg, and then one like tries to buy him out from underneath him, and they have like a similar fight.
Oh yeah,
and they both like beat each other to like a bloody pulp. And then Godzilla ends up killing them both. But, like, it's not, like, super spoilers. But I was, like, thinking about that the whole time. I was like, I've seen this happen before. And the dude is literally packing money into a suitcase to get out of the city before Godzilla destroys, like, the building that he's in. And I was like, was this, like, derived from that? Like,
I think that Ryu kind of has a happy ending, though, because...
He does, because he gets to witness the revolution happen.
He, like, sits down, he's like... And he just bleeds out and dies.
That was one of the things that I mentioned to that I didn't recognize the first time through.
Yeah.
Was that he, and the visual too, is he gets farther ahead than him and witnesses the revolution happening before his eyes, and that's how he dies, is he gets to witness it happening and he dies with peace.
Yeah, he basically like he's relieved. He's like
because the other dude dies taking like the pills with the heart attack.
He's like,
and he dies in the middle of the alleyway, but Ryu makes it to see the revolution happen.
Yeah.
And dies peacefully because of that. Which that was another thing. Like I said, I pick up something new and I probably saw it the first time but didn't think about it. And then watched it and I was like, oh man, I was like, that's awesome. Like that he made it to see what his goal was. Because he was like, my men all died and everything. He's like, we failed. The mission was a failure. But then he happens upon the alleyway and he's like, we did it. And you see him like smile too as he like falls to his knees and you're like, he did it. Like they accomplished their mission.
The way
this was it.
That's what I remember is the way he falls. Cause he's on his knees, but like, he's kind of like...
Yeah, he has like an arm up on the wall, and then you're just kind of like...
Yeah. But
he has a smile on his face when he dies. Yeah.
So, I want to bring up another film by this director, which I think... I mean, yesterday I would have had this opinion, but right now I'm not exactly sure. He created Steam Boy, and that was my preferred movie over the two, but after this discussion, I don't know, they might be tied. But I'll have to go rewatch Steam Boy. But I like them for separate reasons. Because this one, it's kind of funny because it's like in a Neo Tokyo. Like it's a cyberpunk, essentially. Yeah. And then Steam Boy is a steampunk film.
I think I know where you're going with this. Steam Boy has the amazing voice cast that it has.
Not only that, but it's just tonally, it's much more whimsical. And like there's
score's
to
better
it.
Too.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention the score on this.
No,
but
the score's good on this.
Yeah, but Steve Jablonsky's
score on Steam Boy is phenomenal.
Yeah, but that's just one thing. It's kind of funny seeing a movie like this is dreadful, like tonally dreadful. Like it seeps into you. You're like, wow, this is intense. This is dark.
There are horrific moments that happen in that movie.
And then in Steam Boy, it's so lighthearted and whimsical. It's like a little kid flying around.
It's a feel-good anime.
Yeah. Like it's just crazy to think about that this guy that like created this is just like, oh, I'll make this now. Yeah. And like there are like intense moments of that movie, but it's like nothing compared to this movie. It's so crazy.
No, I totally they're on complete opposite sides of the spectrum. I mean, one's PG. And the others are.
Yeah.
Like,
but as you said, at least in the American cast, it's phenomenal.
Oh yeah, you have Alfred Molina, you have Anna Paquin, you have Sir Patrick Stewart. Excuse me.
Yeah, right.
But you have Sir Patrick Stewart, Alfred Molina, Anna Paquin. I mean, that's one that you have to watch in English because the voice cast is just amazing. And I mean, visually, it's amazing too.
And it's funny because obviously it's from the same creator, the same illustrator, but the characters look like the same.
Yeah,
like they look the same.
No, yeah,
and I wanted to bring that up.
That's something that I love, the style.
Yeah. Ryu and one of the other guys,
the Colonel. Yeah. They look exactly the same.
Yeah, they look like the same person.
Yeah.
So
because like that's one thing that confused me the first time through. I was like, is Ryu the Colonel?
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because like the Colonel shows up and I'm like, did he die in an alleyway? Like not this time through, but like the first time through we watched it, I'm like, they both have mustaches and they both wear suits. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, I think we've pretty much extended what we could say about this. So,
I mean, I could go on for like.
I could too, but I would just be saying things that we've already said over and over.
I mean, like whenever you said this is one of your favorite movies, and like you gave a little bit of hints, and I was like super excited. Like any of you guys who listened to the Close Encounters one knew that I was excited as hell to do this one. So, I mean, like, I personally, like I said, you and I could go on for like a half an hour more, but we'd just be kind of going over the same shit.
I'm just so thankful we had the opportunity to see it in a movie theater.
Yeah, like, so thankful for that guy who kept driving 10 miles under the speed limit and the person behind them high-beamed them many times to make us late for the movie to get into the previews.
But we made it.
We made it, yeah.
I was gonna say the previews didn't even start when
the version we watched it. I watched it twice. Me and Aaron watched it twice. We watched it in the DVD version, and then we saw that it was going to have a theatrical release. So we're like, oh well, we have to go see it.
Yeah.
So we saw it, and just like it's essentially night and day. Yeah. Like the theater is just like it was so crisp and so just like visually stunning.
The theatrical experience will forever stand out in my mind.
Like, there's nothing wrong with the DVD.
Yeah.
It's just like the quality of it in the theater. It's just like I don't think unless I get the 4K version, I don't think I'll ever see anything as
I was going to say,
and feeling the surround sound and everything. I mean, it's a whole different experience.
I'm sure if you buy the Blu-ray, like I'm sure it'll look.
Yeah, I'm thankful that they're making a 4K version of it because it, like we said, it's so groundbreaking and influential. It deserves it. Absolutely. And it really does deserve it.
Yeah.
And I will probably buy the 4K version too.
Well, I guess I'll start us off with a rating here. I was grappling with myself about this one, but I think I'm just going to go with a solid 9 out of 10. Just because upon rewatching it twice, and because the first time I watched it, I wasn't all that into it.
Yeah. And
then we watched it again, and I was like, okay, it's rubbing on me a little better. And then after seeing it in theaters, it's just like, yeah, that's cemented it for me. So that's a 9.
That's a 9.
But yeah, that'll be it for me.
Same with Tenet. I'm gonna second Shawn's motion as a 9 because it's just, and like I said, for different reasons, because I know Shawn's a huge anime fan. I am a big art fan because of my background, but visually this movie's amazing, but story-wise and character-wise, it is phenomenal. And like I said, it's one of those movies, if you are a film student or just have an interest in film, you cannot leave this earth until you've watched this movie and appreciate it for everything that it is.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% on a 9 out of 10 basis with this.
Mine's gonna sound bad, but it's because I need to watch it again. I'm just gonna go with a 7, just because I know there's a lot to appreciate.
That's a good score, though.
Yeah,
7's a really good score,
given the circumstances.
Yeah,
We
drug you there watching it in Japanese, so I mean,
I'm positive
7 is great. Actually.
I'm positive after you watch it again, you'll appreciate it better,
especially if you watch it in English.
Yeah. So for right now, I'm gonna give it a 7.
We can amend it on next recommendation.
Next episode, I will update on how I truly feel.
Okay. Well, that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
I'm satisfied.
Oh, I am too. Absolutely.
We have another recommendation coming our way.
From our very own Mike.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. I totally forgot it was my turn.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
I actually had to think about that today. I was like, is it my turn or Mike's?
yeah, I totally didn't even cross my mind. So I'm just picking one that I've been sitting on. Hopefully, I will really enjoy watching it again. But it's one of my favorite movies, and it is from 2002, and it is The Time Machine.
H.G. Wells, The Time Machine?
Yeah,
I've never watched this one, actually.
with Guy Pearce.
Really?
Yep.
I'm intrigued.
I've never seen it before.
Neither have I. I'm intrigued.
I was hoping.
I'm a big fan of War of the Worlds. I've read War of the Worlds. I haven't read The Time Machine just yet, but I'm excited for this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll read books, so.
If only we could have
I like this
had
movie.
it recommended this week to go with our Tenet time.
Oh yeah. Well, it's kind of what made me think of
it. Works though. It
Yeah.
definitely works out.
We open up with time travel.
We open up the time travel Pandora's box. So we asked for
Alrighty,
this.
guys. Thank you for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation about Tenet and Akira. I know that we had fun doing it.
Absolutely.
If you don't want to be spoiled for Time Machine on our next episode, make sure to watch it before then. And catch you later.
Sayonara.